Hello viewers, this should be a short update video to keep you all informed about what's happening here in the lab, and at the end I'll give you a little bonus, a quick tour through my gold ceramic collection. I posted some pictures of that up on Twitter and people seem to like that, so I'll give you a bonus tour of that after I've said what I want to say. So the UK is currently in lockdown state due to the COVID-19 outbreak, so we have to work from home. We can't go out except for essentials, etc, etc. So I am all safe and well at the moment, though I do still go into work at my usual times, so nothing as much has changed here for me, but the lockdown in the UK and other countries has affected what I can do in the lab. Teardowns have dried up, and I also have the issue that I can't go out and collect anything. So it all has to be delivered, and of course there's delays and issues with couriers and things like that. So yeah, there's been no teardowns on the cards, so apologies for the lack of those. Now I started working on what should be a pretty cool retro PC project a month or so ago, and I thought by now I'd be in a position where I could have made at least one or two parts to it by now, but the lockdowns are slowing down the postage, courier services, and obviously you buy things on eBay, but the person is in a lockdown state, so they can't go out and post things. So it's stalled everything for me. So all I can say is hang on in there. Normal service will resume as soon as possible. You know, it's just going to take a little bit of time for things to sort themselves out. In other news, you may have noticed I've changed the channel name from Dexter's Lab 2013 to Dexter's Tech Lab. There was a couple of reasons why I did this. Firstly, the original name was just because I liked Dexter's Lab, the cartoon, and I started it in 2013. That was literally it. And obviously down the line now with well over 8,500 subscribers, it's probably time for a change and get that updated. So that's something I've been wanting to do anyway. I also wanted to get rid of actually using the name Dexter's Lab. Obviously it is a copyright thing. So I opted to dispense with the Dexter's Lab, but also change it around a bit just to include some of the original references. And I just wanted it to be a better looking name and something that doesn't have that weird 2013 on the end, which just seemed to be a bit odd. So I've changed the name to Dexter's Tech Lab, so that should be fairly in keeping with what I've done in the past and what I'm going to be doing in the future. And you may have also noticed I've changed Patreon and Twitter as well to reflect this. So I think I'm pretty much there and everything's been changed. So on to the bonus. Now at the beginning of the video I said I was going to give you a little tour of my gold ceramic IC collection. I can't remember when I started collecting these, to be honest. I've always had a fascination with gold and ceramic ICs. I think it was, when you used to look back in old computer magazines and you'd have your Amstrad or your Atari or something, and then you'd flick through a magazine and see a plug-in card for a PC or some other bit of computer kit, and it's got ceramic ICs on it, and you just go, whoa, that looks like power. I think that's one of the reasons why I've always been fascinated with gold ceramics. So I've started collecting them. I've not really been going out of my way to buy them intentionally to collect. It's just stuff that I've ended up picking up along the way for the most part. So yeah, as you can see here, this is a bit of an eclectic mix. It's all just randomly placed in here. They've got all sorts of stuff. Got Intel CPUs, Motorola CPUs, EEPROMs, microcontrollers, SRAM, CCDs. Okay, so the first one I've got in here is this IBM Power 6 CPU. This is the most recent addition to the collection. I picked this up only a couple of weeks ago. The Power range of CPUs was made by IBM. They've been using the Power architecture for decades, mostly using servers. So I've always wanted a Power CPU, and this is the last type to use a ceramic package. The ones after this went to a fiberglass, a fiber organic substrate one, and they did away with ceramic. So it's quite a cool, heavy, weighty thing with a big lump of ceramic and the heat spreader on top. just a big land grid array. So that's quite cool. So let's just move up to this layer up here. I have a fascination for the Motorola 68000. I always loved it ever since I had my Atari, and I've grown to love it even more. And I've actually started collecting 68000 stuff. So on the left here we've got a ceramic 68000. That's a 10 megahertz one. That's quite cool. You don't see the ceramic versions that often. Then below that we have the 68882 math coprocessor. 68882 math coprocessor, often seen in Ataris and Amigas and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, that's a nice floating point unit, pin compatible with the 68881. This is just a slightly newer, better pipelining if I recall. So that's quite cool to have. Next one along, we've got a 68010 in a PGA package. It's quite cool. I think this was one that I did buy just to help my collection of 68000 stuff. I think that was an actual I'm buying this to collect it thing. The 68882, that came out of a teardown if I recall. Can't remember which one it was though. Next along here we've got a 68450. That's the DMA controller used in the 68000 family. So, oh yeah, obviously quite important for moving tons of data around. That came out of one of my Quantel CPU boards. And next along we've got a 68020, bigger, more powerful version of the 68000. Now I'm missing the 68030, unfortunately. I'll get one eventually. So we skip along there to the next one, which is the 68040, which is kind of cool. It's getting up to that sort of 486 size package. This again came out of one of my Quantel CPU boards, and not too long ago I bought one of these, which is a 68060. Now this is actually a relabeled version. It is a real 68060, but it's probably one of the cut down versions, or it's not the 75 megahertz version, which there never was, basically. So the chances are this is probably like a 68 LC 33 or something like that, and it's been rebadged, but it is a genuine 68060, just not the one that it says on the top there. Now this large one here came from a teardown that I think I did but didn't film it. It's from a network switch. It's just fascinated me, this one, that it's obviously a custom ASIC, but it's an enormous PGA package, and it was in a socket, so that one was easy to remove. So next LAN, so yeah, it's probably a network switch thing, so that's quite cool. So I definitely had to save that when I did a teardown on that one. Round about here we have the very, very classic TMS 320 DSP from Texas Instruments. Yeah, these have been around for a very, very, very long time, and the cores are still used in things today. So yeah, that's quite a cool one to have. The next one down is, this one came out of a teardown. I can't remember which one it was. I just don't recall. So this is an IDT SA45G, and this is actually an SRAM. It's a dual ported SRAM, so you can have two things reading and writing to the SRAM storage at the same time. So next one we've got a couple of EEPROMs here. This is a nice white ceramic EEPROM from Fujitsu. What's the date on that one? 1979. So that's quite an old one, with a nice metal cover over the glass window. White ceramic and gold pins. It's quite a cool one, that. And this next EEPROM is a Hitachi part, so yeah, gold pin ceramic substrate and a bonded glass window. Now, I can't really see a date code on that. There is a 3-digit code there. That's probably a date code, so you'd have to decode it, figure out what kind of date that is. But I would say that's probably late 1980s, I would say. This device here, this is sort of fairly ordinary looking, but it is a ceramic, so I've included it in my collection. It's an 8085 CPU. Next along, we've got an interesting 2 devices here. These I find absolutely fascinating, that they are in fact surface mount SRAMs that have been mounted onto a dip substrate. Presumably you couldn't get SRAMs of this size in this package, and these have been designed and made for people with old designs that needed to plug in old types of SRAM, and they've created a ceramic package to take the surface mount units and convert that to a dip package. So yeah, really quite fascinating things, those ones. Date code is 1987 for that one, and a similar sort of story with this one here. But what looks like slightly higher density SRAMs, top and bottom, on a ceramic substrate, and you can actually see in the centre there, there's some component stuck right in the centre, so probably quite a costly thing to manufacture, that one. And yeah, that one's slightly newer, that's from 1990. These next 3 devices are fairly ordinary. They are Intel and NEC microcontrollers, which have built-in program ROM, which is UV erasable. So it's basically a microcontroller with a UV erasable memory built in. So they're quite cool. I've got quite a few of these actually. Right, last one to look at on here is this one here. It's actually quite a cool one to have, because this is actually a very old Intel EEPROM. This one is dated 1975. So yeah, really nice looking white ceramic with gold pins everywhere. That's quite a cool one to have. Quite pleased I've got that one. So yeah, there's one that really stands out here, isn't there? Yeah, the Pentium Pro. Awesome processor. These just, like, you just see them and you just go, wow, it's just got power written all over it, isn't it? I love this size of this. Absolutely enormous ceramic package. Well known for their gold content, so they often get melted down, unfortunately, to recover the gold out. But this is one that I bought this kind of in the day. I think I bought a couple of Pentium Pro motherboards back in the 1990s, probably the sort of late 90s. And this is one of the CPUs out of out of those boards. I saved it and I've had this ever since. So this is the 200 megahertz version with the 256K cache. They were available with 512 and 1 meg cache on them. So yeah, the cache is actually a separate die. If you removed this, you'd see the CPU die and the cache die, 2 separate things, with all those lovely gold pins. Next gold one we have is this Xilinx Fpga. You don't see FPGAs of this size, and certainly not in ceramic packages. So this is quite old. I think this is dated 1998. So this would not have been a cheap thing to have. When I saw that, I think I was doing a teardown of something, and I saw this and went, oh, I have to save that. Unfortunately, it was soldered in, so I just used a hot air gun to remove it when it came out okay. So yeah, quite a cool thing to have, that one. Don't see FPGAs that big in a big ceramic like that. So this one here is an interesting one. Again, I tore this down. I think it was something I took to bits a number of years ago, and it had this in. This is a RISC CPU. It's an AM2900. There's various parts of this went into particular PC compatible CPUs from AMD later on, if I remember correctly. So it's quite it was quite an important processor at the time, but it didn't really gain any traction, and then it ended up in things like I think it was the AMD 586 or the 686, something like that. So that's quite cool. Nice gold ceramic pin grid array. So this is another gold ceramic package. Now this one is actually an A to D converter with a metal top. So this will be a hybrid inside. If we manage to take the lid off, we'd see bare dies and all sorts of other components in there. So this would be, as I said, a hybrid package, not just an IC. That's quite cool. That's why I've saved that one. And these parts here are quite interesting. You don't see them very often. These are programmable logic devices, very similar to a PAL or a GAL, that kind of thing, but they're UV erasable. So I saw these in something and saved them. I thought, yeah, they're quite cool. You don't see UV erasable things that with a window that small. So yeah, definitely saved that one. So that was an Altera one from 1993. This one is a Cypress part that is dated 1993. So again, little quartz window so you can erase the program that's in it. I seem to remember this one, I found this in a tube and it appears to be completely unused. Kind of cool. So yeah, we've got an AMD Duron CPU there, fairly ordinary stuff, but yeah, on the gold ceramics, that's why it sits in my collection. But yeah, typical PC processor from would be the late 90s, early noughties, some around that sort of time. Next along we've got the classic Pentium. So yeah, the Pentium was certainly a bit of a game changer, wasn't it, in terms of PC processors. It really was a bit of a leap forward from the 486, and of course you have the Pro version of it down there. So this is a 75 megahertz part, probably one of the earlier ones. Because of course later on they switched to the organic fibre substrate version and did away with the ceramic. So the next chip we have here is the Intel 960, an utterly classic CPU. Saw this in so many embedded devices like laser printers and all sorts of things. What else would you have seen it in? Like RAID controller cards and things like that. You often saw the 960, and I seem to recall, isn't there some connection, the 960 with the 29,000? I'm sure there's a connection between the two. But yeah, quite a cool part, that one. 33 megahertz, that's rated to. I seem to remember this is a RISC CPU, which is yeah, I'm sure there's some kind of connection between the 29,000 and the 960. So yeah, nice gold ceramic package there. The next one along, we've got the
again, utterly classic 486DX CPU, 33 MHz part, typical ceramic pin grid array version. I can still remember getting my first 486 and it was just a massive upgrade over the 386 that I had before it, so yeah. Then of course after the DX you had the DX2 and the DX4 and a whole slew of other copies of the 486 which always made you go through all those millions of jumpers on your motherboard to tell the motherboard exactly what CPU you had. I always hated doing that because you never got it right the first time. Yeah. Over here we've got just a completely bog standard TMS 27C256 EEPROM. Very, very classic part. Next to that we've got two more UV erasable microcontrollers like we saw before. And just here we have another Intel CPU. This is a 186 at 10 MHz. Quite an unusual package, this one, because it doesn't have pins. It has just pads for, it's like a LAN grid array kind of thing, but it's all spread out around the edge. Quite an interesting style. I don't think I ever saw that on anything other than the 186, to be honest. That's quite cool. I've had this one for a very, very long time. This might actually be the first gold ceramic that I actually made a point of saving, I think. And I've kept it ever since. I seem to remember I took apart a really, really old PC back in the 90s. And I had this chip in. Yeah, I have a suspicion that I butchered what would probably now be a very, very classic vintage computer back then, and saved the CPU out of it. So I think that's where that's come from. This interesting looking package is a Beurre brown isolation amplifier. This came out of a teardown that I did a few years ago. Really interesting hybrid package. So you got pins coming through a ceramic substrate and then another ceramic part on top. So inside here it's going to be a hybrid thing, so there'll be bare dies, bond wires and various things open to the elements if it wasn't for the bonded on ceramic top. So that's quite a cool, interesting thing. This one here is a CCD. This came out of a video camera. I don't recall which one. Ceramic gold pins and all the rest of it, and a nice glass window on the front. Seems to be date on it might be 1994, possibly. And the last one in here is a very notorious chip, the SPX 1602, and there's a sister one as well, the SPX 1601. Yeah, these are horrible things. They are for generating and receiving SDI video from digital video production equipment, and they were notorious at the time because they just fail. So I've got one here in the collection because I have a lot of these. So yeah, this is a hybrid package, so there's an IC in there with various components around the outside. So included this one here, so weird hybrid package with a pin grid array. Right, so that pretty much concludes a little tour of my gold ceramic collection. So I just want to thank you for watching. I'd also like to thank my patrons for continuing to support the channel. Thank you very, very much.
And I would also like to thank all those medical and healthcare people saving lives every day during this coronavirus outbreak. Thank you very much. So stay safe everyone, stay home, and I will be seeing you very soon. Bye for now.